The first Moana is awesome. One of my favorite Disney movies. Does the new one live up to the hype? Well, what's up, flick fans? Are we capitalizing on nostalgia, or was there actually a story? Today I'll give you my thoughts right now. After receiving an unexpected call from her wayfinding ancestors, Moana must journey to the far seas of Oceania and into dangerous, long-lost waters for an adventure unlike anything she's ever faced. This film was rated PG, of course, for action and peril. Auli'i Cravalho returns as Moana, Dwayne Johnson as Maui, so we've got the crew that we know and love back, plus the chicken and the pig. How silly. It's so silly.
Oh my god, that was so funny!
How do I say this without sounding like I'm over-exaggerating? The first Moana changed my world. No, it didn't, but I loved it. Like, it is genuinely one of the best things I believe Disney has done in a long time. Up there, at least, right? But it came out in 2016. That was a long time ago. I remember making my list of movies that year. I can't believe it's been 8 years, but now we've got a sequel so many years later, a sequel that I was concerned for, worried for, because I'm like, is this going to be one that just appeals to kids? Is it going to appeal to adults? There's a difference between a kid's movie and a family film. The first Moana is a family film. There's something for everybody, adults and kids alike. As much as people give Lin-Manuel Miranda flack for, right, he brought it when it came to the music. He brought the sauce. I think this was one of the first projects that he worked on with Disney, and they said, we want to kind of bring him back for a lot of stuff. I don't think he helped work on the songs this time around. And I do believe, just to start here, that is, that's kind of obvious. Not that the music's bad in this movie. There are one or two very catchy tunes. Auli'i is doing a wonderful job of projecting her voice in some of the earlier songs, and then by the end, you get a great musical number. But I know these are lofty standards, but I wanted to walk out of here kind of humming the tunes like I did for the first one, from You're Welcome to How Far I'll Go to even when they're sailing across the sea, just that 1 minute song. I can't remember the name in the first one, or Shiny. I'd rather be shiny. But I walked into this one like, Maui got a song. It's kind of similar to You're Welcome. Moana got a song, a couple of songs that were kind of similar to the songs we heard in the first. And not that they're bad. I could go back and watch this movie and probably start to remember the words, just because it does kind of have that Disney magic. But I was missing the impact of the first with the music. Now, Austin, how's the animation? Because this is going to be the best part of this review, this movie, this everything, because I'm just going to be raving about it. It looks amazing. You got to give the animators credit, kudos. Maybe it's the fact that it came out 8 years later. They've had time to work on it. I know this was more of a recent thing, but it is a gorgeous looking movie. With a movie like Moana, you have to nail the grandness of the water and the journey that we go on, and kind of nailing that magical feeling, even when we're on the island with her family, like just those very simple, the opening shot of the little crab in the sand, I'm like, that looks really good. Maybe it's because I watched it on a big Dolby screen at the AMC, but man, it looked amazing. And I was just in awe with how great this movie looked. I've heard comparisons like Moana 2, it's just another Disney straight-to-DVD sequel. And, there are some comparisons to be made when you're talking about the story. But it doesn't look like that. So don't get that in your head like, it's just not going to look good. No, it looks spectacular. There are a couple of scenes with Maui towards the end that have to do with his tattoos and doing some crazy things in the sky. And I'm like, man, that looks spectacular.
Hey, that's pretty good.
So the music, it's fine. The visuals are magnificent. Is this one for kids, adults, or both? Well, I definitely think it's more for kids than the first. It doesn't have those moments, jokes, really snarky characters, like we're even missing that villainous presence from the first one, that will make adults go, man, I really feel satisfied. Or even those who watched the first one 8 years ago. Obviously, you've aged. Some of you are probably adults now and weren't before, but you may be watching this going, there's not as much for me here as there was in the first, and that's kind of what I was looking for. I know it's doing its job with the kids, because kids were really excited in our theater. We got some claps when it was over, and I have to give the movie points for that. Regardless of what I think of the story, I've got to give it points for still kind of keeping that magic. Specifically, when Moana and Maui are on screen, they're really great together. Now, for the adults, there's always that lingering thought of, is this just a Disney sequel for the sake of it being a Disney sequel? There were rumors that this was going to be a television show at one point. I can kind of feel that. But at the same time, I'm thinking, could they come up with this story for this? Is it going to be one that just kind of tanks, not only at the box office or with critics? Now, we talked about Kalshi on this channel before, but I think it's very relevant to the movie that we're talking about, especially if you're an adult wondering whether or not to watch this film. If you look at the Rotten Tomato score right now, we're sitting at a 67%. And if we scroll down and look at the odds of it staying fresh is at a 98%. So if you wanted to throw some money on yes, you wouldn't get that much. But I think the number to focus on here, if you are adults looking to invest some money, is 65. This movie has dropped significantly over the last couple of days. It started out fairly high. When I looked at it yesterday, I think it was like 73, 74. We're all the way down to 67 with plenty more reviews to come. And so I decided to risk it and say this film will not stay above 65. It will drop below that number. I think it ends up at just above 60 because I think the more reviews that come in, the lower that number gets. If you select no, you can invest $100, win $280. So I think Kalshi is a great representation of kind of how these Rotten Tomato scores can change so drastically in a short period of time. And with plenty more reviews to come, I just feel like Moana 2 will continue to drop. And that's something I didn't want to say about a sequel to one of my favorite Disney movies, but unfortunately, it does have that straight-to-DVD sequel type feeling when you look at the story. And that's what I really want to hit on here, is it just feels as if they didn't have enough here for a 90-minute story, which begs the question, if this was originally going to be a TV show, what did they leave out? Because, and I'm not going to give the end of this movie away, they do kind of tease a sequel here. And was this originally supposed to be a TV show combining the stories of Moana 2 and Moana 3, or were they just going to take Moana 2 and kind of spread that out? And that's where I question that decision. Maybe they were 20-minute episodes. I guess that would make sense. But it's almost as if they don't have enough to do in the beginning. It's the build-up to the mission where they go and they fight this big storm god. And they're trying to discover this place that brings all the people together. And in theory, that's a beautiful story. But I felt as if the crew in Moana 2 didn't quite have as much to do. That rhymes. I'm Lin-Manuel Miranda. You know how it goes with a movie like this. Each member of the crew has something to bring, and when we get into an integral situation where we have to have that specific skill set, it's like, I have you, person who plants things and learns how to swim for this exact situation. Admittedly, there were some fun quirks with those characters. One is a massive fan of Maui, so he's like fanboying when Maui shows up. That was pretty funny. And the other one, she kind of works on boats and her skill set comes in handy, but it's almost like they were only there for those specific purposes rather than kind of formed together as a crew with great chemistry. There's one song kind of highlighting through some things, but that's what they do. They highlight through the bonding of the team. When Maui shows up, it's great because he and Moana are awesome together, but everybody else is just there. And I felt like they were kind of weighing things down, literally with the boat, but weighing things down by the end of the movie to where I'm like, did we need them? I know there were a couple of cute moments, but I could have just went with the chicken, the pig, and the main two characters. I know that's repetitive, but the other characters just didn't have a lot to do. But I even feel like Maui and Moana are kind of shortchanged, and that's why I do ultimately compare this story to one of those straight-to-DVD sequels. It's like they couldn't find enough to do here. Now, where they're going could be interesting in theory, but ultimately, I'm just kind of disappointed with this story as a whole because it's not memorable. And I'm not walking out of this movie humming the songs or thinking about the moments like I was the first. I'm walking out going, I'm glad we spent more time with these characters. And it looked good. Before I give you my score, like I said, not tragic like some people are saying. I still think some of the magic is there and your kids are going to enjoy it. But you know, as a Moana stan.
I mean, it's all right. Like,
If you enjoyed this review and you want to drop a thumbs up for support, I appreciate it. I love doing this. Hopefully you all love it. If not, I completely understand that. Moana 2 isn't a tragic drop in quality from the first, but there is less magic, and the story isn't remotely as impactful as the original. While the songs won't resonate nearly as much, there is a lot to admire within certain character interactions, specifically between Maui and Moana. It is also one of the best-looking animated movies of the year. While it doesn't have what makes the first so special, kids will enjoy getting to revisit this world once more. So for that, I'll give it a pass, but like a really close pass, and one that doesn't give it brownie points like some other animated movies this year. That's a problem too, man. We've had like freaking Wild Robot and a couple of other movies, maybe one that comes out in December that I can't talk about yet, but I've seen it. So thanks so much for watching. There's my tease. I'll see you soon.